Hi, and welcome to Knit All the Things. My name is Laurel. I'm also known as West Maven on Instagram, Ravelry in here. If you're new, this is a space where I talk about all the things I'm knitting, all the things I want to knit, all things yarn, just all the things. And if you're returning, welcome back, Knitting Bestie. I can't wait to catch up with you. In this week's episode, I have a bit of a knitting conundrum. I feel like I've kind of knit myself into a corner, if you will, on a sweater, and I'm not quite sure what my next step should be. I'm hoping you guys can help me out on this a little bit. I also have made a lot of progress on my Aureliano Sweater, which was a pattern from the upcoming Memory Lane book, which was gifted to me, as well as I'm wrapping up my Audria Shawl, pun intended. So grab your knitting, get cozy, and let's go. Okay, so let's talk about what I am wearing. I am wearing the Kevat. This is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. I knitted it with Imbue from Brooklyn Tweed in the colorway Charcoal, I believe, as well as Mizuzu from Spin Cycle, and they're dyed in the wool. Now, I did a couple of modifications and I have a whole podcast episode, but I'll kind of quickly run through them with you. I did lengthen the body, and instead of baubles, I added beads. We also have a rambunctious puppy for whatever reason today, and so he is going to be held for a second. Okay, so instead of baubles, I did these cute little Toho beads, and I really like how it turned out. I'm not anti-bauble, but I'm certainly, I would rather do something else, I guess, if you will. I don't know. I see patterns with baubles and I think they're really cute, but when it comes down to it, I'm just not drawn to wearing them as much. So this was a perfect kind of substitute for me. If you didn't want to do anything different and you didn't want beads or you didn't want baubles, you could just do a knit stitch in like the contrast color and it wouldn't matter. Like you wouldn't have to do anything other than that. But I chose to put these beads in, and I believe, yeah, I used a crochet hook. So once you're knitting and you get to the stitch that you were going to bauble, I would knit it, and then I would take a crochet hook that's teeny tiny, and the ones I use are like 000 or something like that, but where you can find them the easiest is look for a dreadlock crochet hook, and they're so tiny that you can easily slip the yarn through the beads, like have the bead on the hook and then grab the yarn and pull it down. And that method works really well for me. And these are size, I think, Toho 80, so they are still pretty tiny beads, but they do definitely give off just a little bit of something. I went with a gold core, and it's kind of like a smoky gray outer part of the bead. I think they're really subtle and a really nice kind of addition. As well as, again, like I said, I think I lengthened the body. I want to say 2 repeats because this was a quite cropped sweater and I just didn't want it to be so cropped. I also, for the first time, I want to say, instead of making it oversized, more like I actually sized down. So I typically will make, I want to say like a size 3 in Caitlin's patterns, which typically is like anywhere from 38 to 40 inch finished yoke. And I believe this time I sized down, which I think the finished yoke then was like 36 to 38. So I believe that I have about a 0 to 2 inch positive ease rather than it being a larger, more positive ease sweater, which I normally do knit, and you're gonna see that later. But I really liked the way this turned out. I really love the Imbue yarn from Brooklyn Tweed. I had the privilege of getting it a little bit early. Starlight Knitting Society, which is my local knitting store, had a pop-up shop with Brooklyn Tweed, and so I was able to purchase some there. It's really nice. It's a sport weight yarn, and I want to get the fiber content. It's worsted spun, and it is a 20.5 micron fine merino 3-ply. And it's really interesting because it was pointed out to me, if you look at the regular Imbue worsted weight, worsted spun. It's certainly a little bit different feel of a yarn. It definitely has that worsted feel, where this one almost has a quality or feel of a little bit of a woolen spun yarn. And it's really bouncy. It's really, really beautiful yarn. I really love it. So I used the charcoal color from Brooklyn Tweed and the Imbue Sport. And then I use Mizuzu, which is from Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool. And as you can see, it has like more of a gradient rather than color changing in this particular one. And they have kind of a group of, I believe, different cities, I want to say. Like a line of, the names are all cities rather than like whatever, I don't know. I can't think of a cycle color. Shades of Earth. So it's not like Shades of Earth where it turns into different colors. They have a group of a few of them that actually just kind of fade between one color. And I believe they're named after Japanese cities, but don't 100% quote me on that. But I really, really enjoyed both of these yarns. I have quite a bit, as you can see, left over of the Spin Cycle. Part of me thought, and I do have enough imbue to do this, that I would actually just lengthen the sleeves because I would wear it probably even more. And just continue the lace pattern on the sleeves down. And then I could even probably do this little motif, or even this one, on the bottom of the sleeve because I have so much extra of this. But I'm really pleased with how it turned out. The second I saw the Imbue Sport, I really had no intention of purchasing it. I just was curious. And once I felt it, because it is so soft, it's such a nice yarn, I was like looking through my phone quickly trying to find something to knit, and this came up. And I will say that when I first saw the Kevat pattern, it wasn't like dazzling me by any means, and it's because the colors she chose are pretty low contrast, so I wasn't able to see this nice like color work. But then I saw some other people's and I really was inspired. So that's why I picked this pattern, and I'm really happy that I did. I think the sleeves are really cute. I just like everything about it. Okay, so that's what I'm wearing. I actually almost wore this sweater, which we will talk about later, and it just was too warm in Portland. It's about 60 or so degrees today, and it's completely overcast. I'll put whatever the Celsius is, and it's a really nice day. I actually love days like this. It was really rainy yesterday, and today is like drier, but still kind of gloomy. And so it's starting to really feel like sweater season. I got ahead of myself thinking, oh, I'll wear this really heavy sweater. Like, that's not gonna happen today. A little bit too warm. Okay, so actually, while we're talking about the sweater, let's grab it. So this is my No Limit sweater. It's inside out. I'll turn it the other way for you in a moment. But I actually really prefer this side. It's like a very grunge sweater feel, and I like how with the kind of really nice finishing on the neckband, you have these like crazy pieces. I also feel like you can almost see when you're wearing it the sequins a little bit more, but it has this really nice shape of sweater where you actually do short rows at the beginning because it's knit bottom up, and then kind of continue to knit your sweater. You do your sleeves separately. I did mine kind of at around the same time so that I was getting my kind of different colored stripes similar. Not exactly the same, but just more similar. I definitely micromanaged this sweater. If I were to make it again, and if I forgot to say, that's a No Limit sweater, but if I were to make it again, I would certainly consider doing a magic knot ball, where you basically take a bunch of scraps and you cut them in pieces, and then you knot them together and make just a big ball that you just knit off of. And I think that would be really nice, but I just didn't do that. I didn't have the patience for that. And I just grabbed, as I was knitting, I would grab like a little piece of red yarn, and then I'd grab some sequins, and then I would grab some mohair, and I just kind of did like random different things. And I really like how it turned out. It's certainly micromanaged, but I think that's good for me. I think it turned out really nice. There's some purple, some blues, a lot of red kind of highlighted color, and like a light silvery gray. And I kind of have fond memories of various projects. This one, like this tiny little piece of mauve yarn, is from a soldatna that I made. And I made, this is like a doubled up sock yarn where I knitted test socks for Ready, Set, Sock, which is a book from, I think, Pom Pom, one of their older books. And so there's like memories in this sweater, which I think is really nice. I think one of the blues is from a sweater that I knit my son. So I just have like lots of little memories in this sweater, which is really nice. And I really, really enjoyed knitting it. I like the just a couple of rows of sequins, and some of the sequin yarn doesn't have sequins. It's more of like just a shiny yarn that has like a little bit of subtle sparkle, which I'll show you, but I don't know if it'll come through. I really liked this sweater. And the reason I bring it up, because when I was knitting this, she had come out with a second book in, I believe, I'm not 100% on this. I think her native language is Dutch, I want to say. If I'm wrong, I'm really sorry. But she came out with a second book. This was from her book Close Knit, and all this I'll link below. But this is from her book Close Knit, and I just really loved all the sweaters and seeing people's creations from that book. And so I then decided that I was going to knit the No Limit sweater. But once I was knitting that, she came out with a second book in her language. I'm assuming Dutch. And it was basically called, her first book was called Knit, Strict, and then the second book was Strict 2, or I don't know the word for 2, but you get where I'm going with this. But this one was called Close Knit, and her next book that's coming out in English, which is the same as the second book, is called Knit It Out, and it will be out September 10th. I pre-ordered it. I'll link the pre-order below. Again, I'm not affiliated with this by any means, but I was so excited. She has a new sweater in that book called the Inner Child sweater, and I don't know the whole thing because I haven't read about it yet, but I think the idea is to take little bits of your childhood and like a color that feels good to you and something that feels good to you, and you kind of switch up the knitting pattern as well as the colors that you're using, and I just think it's cool. So I'm really excited to get that in September, and I will of course do a review then, but if you were interested, I will link it below so you can pre-order it and get it. Next up is my Piña Colada. This is a pattern from Pom Pom magazine, issue 45. It's a pattern by Laura Zucate, and it is an all over intarsia sweater. I'm gonna keep this out because we're gonna talk about these pictures. It's an all over intarsia sweater, long sleeve. You knit it from the bottom up, and then it's a drop shoulder, so you knit the front, you knit the back, you seam them together, you pick up the neckband, and you knit the arms flat in pieces, and then you attach those. So I have been working tirelessly on this pattern, and this is where I'm at. So I am using Yarn Nouveau, the colorway Sapphire, as my contrasting color in her sport weight base, and Issair Alpaca 1. And I really like how this is turning out, but here's where I'm stuck. So in order to kind of fully illustrate this for you guys, I'm going to try it on, but I am going to point out a couple of things before I do that. So I did pick up the neckband, and I did it so quickly. I'm really proud of how this all turned out. I seamed the seams because it just says, I think it just says in the instructions to like just seam it. And I decided when I was going to seam it, and part of why I had also brought this out, Lerky Bagger always recommends putting her sweaters together with a crochet seam, and I've always preferred that since I can remember. I learned to crochet first, and then I learned how to knit, and when I would make scarves, I really preferred doing like infinity scarves. And so I would knit it flat and then twist it and then crochet, seam it together. I believe, I'm not 100% sure. I have read the pattern, but I just can't remember. I think you start with like half as many stitches, and then you double increase them, and then you do the pattern or something like that. And so you have to make a decision immediately when knitting the sleeves on how that's going to look. A couple of things I have thought through, and I'll be right back. Let me be right back. I'll do a quick change. Okay, so let me stand up. So my ease is quite a bit, right? And that was intentional because I like an oversized drop sleeve sweater, and I really don't have that long of a sleeve, right, to do. And I didn't, because I was just seaming these how I wanted it to look, I just seamed it how far up I thought I wanted it. So I am going to either have to adjust this if I add a sleeve, or just make sure that I have enough stitches to attach the sleeve. So here is the couple of ideas. Idea number 1. I have thought the sweater could be done. It looks really nice as a top like this. I think the way that the drop shoulder is, it is really nice. I could add this ribbing right here and call it a day. And that could be the sweater. Option number 1. Finish with ribbing. Be done. Option 2. I could knit the sleeve as the pattern suggests, but maybe add a band of like the two colors held together here before attaching it so that I can kind of mess around with making sure that it doesn't do that bunching that I wasn't a fan of, is another option. And I don't think that would be a bad look, having a line here and then having the sleeve. The other option would be to make the sleeve slimmer because it is so blousy on me. I think if you go too blousy on the sleeves and too blousy on the sweater, then it's going to be just looking like I'm wearing someone else's clothing and I'm not wearing something that was fitted to me. And so my other thought was to make the sleeves smaller by 1 diamond. So it would be 1 diamond slimmer. These are all options. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. Part of me feels like I'm getting a little burned out on this sweater. So I partially want to finish it with ribbing so that I can just wear it and call it a day. I guess in my head, if I was like, oh, I really like the Kevat that I was just showing you. Gosh, I wish this had longer sleeves. Sleeves knit flat take a little bit longer, but I could, go, I'm just going to add sleeves to this, or I'm going to add sleeves to this once it's done and I've worn it and lived in it for a while. Or I might wear it and live in it a while and go, you know what, this is actually perfect. I wouldn't want anything else. So this is where I'm kind of at a impasse. I'm not sure what the next step is because I love how the length turned out. And I really like all the different details. This was a difficult weaving in ends because each time you're coming to a different part of the diamond, you're using less. Like here in the X, you're using only 1 yarn instead of the 2. So you're having one of the ends woven in each time you hit one of those spots of the diamond. So there's I already did it, but there was a million ends to weave in. And I'm just not sure. I don't know if I have it in me to do, I think right now, I don't think I'm going to do the big blousey sleeve. I think that might be too much. So either making the sleeve a little slimmer, 1 repeat slimmer, or finishing it and calling it a day is, I think, where I'm kind of at. So I really do value your opinion. I would love it if you would leave a comment below and tell me what you think I should do. You're not going to hurt my feelings. If you're suck it up and finish the sweater, Laurel, that's fine. Or leave it as it is. Or if you had a different thought, please share that with me. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm getting so close, and it is the time of year to wear this if I'm gonna wear it short sleeve, so I do want to make a decision on that fairly soon, just so I can either wear it or continue on. But I do like it. I like how, like, it turned out how I envisioned it, which is always nice when it's not like a surprise on how your sweater turns out. And like I said, I did pick a larger size. I believe the pattern says to pick a size that is 0 to 2 inches. Let's see. So the model is wearing a sweater that is 2 inches of positive ease, and the recommended ease is 0 to 2 inches. And mine is probably closer to the 6 to 8, I think, is how it ended up. So I did make it longer than the pattern. I think I added a diamond to make it longer because I didn't want it to be cropped. Hers looks a little cropped. Looking at this model wearing various different patterns, like I think she has a shorter torso and she's wearing the sweaters that in the magazine more cropped. And I don't like cropped things, so I knew I wasn't going to do that. So I did add a pattern, and I think I did a great job, like here on the shoulders, like really stopping at the same point. And I'm really proud of like how this turned out. I just need to figure out what's next. So leave a comment below, let me know. A quick change back, and then we'll continue on. So Piña Colada Sweater by Laura Zutkate. I am really proud of this. Like I really feel like I took on a challenge here, and I'm proud of how it's turning out. I would be proud to wear it as is, but I don't know, like part of me, and typically I would normally just suck it up and finish it to pattern, but I'm also trying to listen to myself. Like, part of knitting is joy, and if I'm starting to lose some joy on this, like, what's next? So Laura Zutkate, Piña Colada Sweater. I really love it. I think I'm tiring of it a little bit, but that's okay. It's okay to do that. Okay, next up. Right now there's a pre-order for Claudia Quintanilla's Memory Lane Embellished Knits to Cherish. And I was gifted the pattern early so that I could kind of preview knit it before it came out. I will link the pre-order information below. And I lost some stitches. We're going to have to kind of fix this. I think I have to double check it. Okay, so I've been working on this Aureliano sweater. Oh, I really need a longer cord. Okay, so this is the Aureliano Sweater by Claudia Quintanilla, and it is an all-over colorwork mohair sweater. The mohair is held double. I am using all La Bien Aimé's mohair silk, and it is in the colorway Winterfell, I think Fog, Dire Wolf, and then Mist is this darker gray. And I really was nervous a little bit about the like variations of the gray, if you're going to be able to see them all, but I think you can. And I'm really excited. I just this morning, I'm really losing stitches. At least it's mohair and it kind of sticks together. Let's kind of fix that a little bit. Okay, so this morning I just folded down the neckband. I really think it's going to be so pretty. I'm really looking forward to getting this finished so I can wear it. It feels very wintry to me, so obviously being all mohair, it's going to be a winter sweater, but it is really, really light. It would be great to like pack if you were traveling. I think it would be a good like throw in because it is kind of so light. And it right now I really can see wearing it with jeans or just about anything. It's really fun to knit. The mat, like once you do the pattern one time, you totally know what your next like motif is. You can easily memorize it. The only thing I have to look at right now is the increases, which I think I have one more increase, and then I think I'll be splitting for sleeves soon, so I won't have too many more increases. And again, it would probably look a little differently, not so scrunched on the needles, but we're gonna do our best. I am a big fan, I used to not be, of the folded collar, and I was gonna give just a quick little tip that I do when fastening or stitching them down. I go every other stitch. I don't fasten each stitch. I do every other one. So in this case, I just chose the knit stitches because they were easy for me to pick. And that's what I fastened down on each stitch below. And that kind of also gives it a little stretch. The first time that I knit down a double collar was it was probably both of my first two sweaters because they were petite knit and that's something she likes to do. But I made it so tight I couldn't get it over my head at all. And so I had to undo it, and it was like triple mohair. Something crazy. And so it took me forever to like get it unpicked and re-knit it or re-sew it down. So now I always do the every other one, and I haven't had problems. You don't need to you just need to tack it down. You're not like reinforcing the sweater is also another thing to keep in mind. Like, you do not need that collar to like do anything for you. So just tacking it down is just fine. You're not needing to like sew it down, which I think sometimes you want to, but you don't need to do that. I also actually had thought of skipping the collar altogether and just casting on a provisional cast on and just starting it, and then coming back later to decide how long I wanted the neck. But I just in the end decided to keep the folded over collar because I really liked the way it looked in the picture, and I think it will look nice. I hope that these colors look good on camera so you guys can really get kind of a feel of how the sweater is going to look. And I'm getting close. I think I have, like I said, I think I have one more increase section after I'm done with this. And then I'm going to move to splitting for sleeves. This is also in my Black Pearl Magic bag. I was so lucky to meet Shayla at Flock and get this bag. It's been on like a list of like things I've kind of coveted. And so being able to buy one from her at Flock was amazing. And it has just like, I don't know if you can tell, but it has little sparkles in here, which are fun. And it's out of my comfort zone, you guys. It's not black. It's happy, colorful, and I'm really actually, surprised how much yarn I was able to fit in this bag. I don't think it's gonna stay here. It's, I think, gonna have to migrate after I get going a little bit further, but maybe I might be able to kind of keep it in here. We'll see. But it surprisingly fits more, I would say, than I initially thought it would. So I was thinking, I don't know, a shawlish size, but that's 5 balls of mohair and a sweater. So it's got quite a bit of yarn in there. And yeah, so the only other thing I want to say is last episode I did talk about the sweater I hadn't cast it on yet, and I was asked if I was gifted the pattern. Yes, I was. So that's clear. And yeah, once the book comes out, or once it gets a little bit closer, I will probably review some more of the patterns in it and share some of the techniques, because I really think the reason you would want to get the book is for the techniques. Like, the patterns are beautiful. There's a lot of simple patterns also that you can, like, again, embellish, because that's the point of the book. So you have some basic patterns, but I think the techniques are what make it special. And even I was thinking about it this morning, like I did the beads here, which they have a pattern where you do add beads more similarly in this way. I think it's called wings. But then there's also ones where you're embroidering beads. So there's a lot of there's quite a bit of variety in the way that you can use the book. Okay, next up is my Audria Shawl. And I have worked on this. I don't know if you guys can tell. So I have worked on this shawl. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, so I'm at the very end of this needle, but so far it's staying on. Okay, so, oh no. Hold on, guys. Let's fix it the best we can. We'll have to come back to that. Okay, so what I was gonna say, and I'm gonna have to probably count the end because I totally messed it up. But what I was gonna say, I am just about done with this shawl. I have only the edge to do. So there are like maybe 8 rows of ribbing, and then you switch to doing the scallops. And I didn't realize that they were German short row scallops, so I think that will actually make it go by faster. At least I'm hoping it will. And so I really just have like 8 more rows of ribbing, and then I'm going. So I just finished all the stockinette, all of the color work, all of the lace, and now we're just doing the scalloped edge. So I'm really excited to get this done. It is like getting to be the time of year when I'm gonna be wanting to use a shawl. And kind of the funny thing, and I'm gonna bring them next time, or when this is done, I have at least 3 that I can think of off the top of my head that are all in the same color scheme. So I'm obviously feeling the blush and the burgundy together, some black. So I think that's kind of fun because I definitely am starting to see like a very like solid color story at the moment in my knits, which I think is nice. I have like the blue and gray sweater, but then this is kind of, I always typically go towards these colors, and it's just nice to see. Like I started, when I started knitting, I didn't have a like solid, I just grabbed like, oh, this is a nice ball of yarn, and regardless of whether or not I would wear it, but I'm really starting to like hone in on like what I want and what I want to wear, and I think that's really nice. So this is again the Audria Shawl. This is by Ines Sang, or I Sang Knits, and I really, really love it. It really is going to be even more beautiful blocked, where you can really see the lace well and be able to see the scalloped detailing once I finish that. And I think it's been just super fun. I grabbed this once I kind of finished the body of the Piña Colada because I've been just kind of mulling over what to do. But this has been nice. And I just need to suck it up and get the ribbing done because I really don't think this should take too much longer. And the scalloping is going to kind of mimic these beautiful colorwork spots in the shawl, which is really nice. And this shawl I have knitted with Ching fiber in the colorway Moody, held with Knitting for Olive in the colorway Powder. Then this is Lola Bean. Oh, and this is the yak base, the Shing fiber yak base. Then Lola Bean yarn yak base in Name Me, held with Black Coral from Yarn Nouveau. So those are my beautiful shawl and yarns. I really love the Ching fiber, like has these beautiful speckles in it. It's definitely more mild having the mohair held with it, but I think that's nice. I think it's a good balance, if you will, to the yarn. And I really, really, really can't wait to wear this. It's a yak based yarn, and I really think that it's going to be really warm. So it'll be interesting to see if I wear it more like a blanket or if I am wearing it out. I'll be curious to see how I decide to style it. Is all of the I'm currently knitting. Next up, I have a few need to knit and need to knit quickly. All right, so I have one friend that just had, well, I guess she didn't have, her daughter had her first grandchild, a little boy. And so I was going to previously have had something knit already, but I haven't. So what I'm thinking is I probably will make them a little sister romper, a pattern by Petite Knit. She has 2 romper patterns. One is the little brother and one is the little sister. The difference is that the little sister is a fingering to sport weight and the little brother is a DK to worsted weight. So you can kind of use either and just depending on what you like your fabric to look like is how it's gonna kind of come out. I was thinking for them, I would do the little sister. I'm really tempted to do the little brother just because it's faster, but I think I'll do the little sister, and I'm kind of thinking maybe this situation happening. This is, I don't have the ball band right now, but I think it is a colorway from Republic of Yarn, I want to say, and it might be called, well, actually, I don't know. Air balloon or hot air balloon, something like that. It's like a very light, pale mint with white. And then I have this Arwetta Classic by Ficalana in a colorway 340. It's just like a light baby blue. And I thought doing like micro stripes might be cute, or doing some stripes in there just to make sure. I'm sure this is probably enough yarn, but just in case, I could do a few stripes of this just to switch it up. I really like that pattern as a gift. It goes by pretty quickly. I feel like it takes me just a few days to kind of bust one out, even though it's in fingering weight yarn. But I was gonna share these. These are superwash yarns, so that will work. But the other thing I wanted to share is I do typically actually use this, which is Katya, Concept by Katya in the cotton cashmere. This is color 59, and this one is color 56. So I don't remember. I think this one's stone gray and this one's like medium gray. But I have grays because I typically don't know much about the baby, and so I just do a gray. Or I like to do, they have a really beautiful green, like a sage green I've gotten a few times. But I was going to use this as another option for that romper. The next thing that is kind of coming up is one of my close friends had her second. It's a little girl. And I sent her a Monday suit that I had made for my son when he was born, and also a little sister romper in like a lime green for her first. And then for her second, I was thinking I would do something different since I've already kind of made that pattern for her. I was thinking I would do maybe a funky seaside sweater. This is also a pattern by Petite Knit. It's a pattern I have in my library. It's either that or a mini Woodwardia, and hopefully I'm popping in some pictures here. But I think one of these just very simple patterns would be nice, and just send it over. I have more superwash yarn. I have this really pretty pink. This is from Botanical Yarns. I also have these United Queensland Connection. It's a washable, machine washable blend of lamb's wool and cotton. This is the colorway Cocoa, which I thought was really pretty. I have the colorway J, and I also have, I think this is like, aconite. It's like a yellow. So I don't know that these three will go together, but maybe a couple of them in the gray, something like that. And just do a little stripy sweater and send that on its way. I'm kind of tempted to make two, but really in reality, I don't know that I have time for that. Because each year I like to make my kids sweaters. And so I've been starting to ask them what color they want. And my oldest right now has told me that he wants, I would say, like a Kelly green, and then a dark purple, more plum than grape. And so I will probably be working on that. And for his sweater, I really like the way the Leon by Petite Knit fits. I actually want to make one for myself, and so I'm going to probably use that pattern. I'm thinking I really like, it's got an interesting way you construct the shoulders. I believe you knit the back, then I think you knit the front, and then you pick up kind of around the shoulder line, and then you start knitting that way. So it's kind of just a different construction, and I really had fun knitting it the couple of times that I've knit it. So I think I might use that pattern for him, but I don't have yarn for that yet. So that would be his sweater. And then my youngest typically likes a lot of colors, and so I was just gonna let him go for it in my stash to see what he comes up with, and then if I need to supplement, add in some there. But I'm hopefully going to start working on those soon because I would like them to be able to wear them. So in theory, August probably takes me a couple weeks per sweater. If I start now, they'll have them by the time the weather's starting to turn, and it'll be kind of sweater weather. So that's kind of my plans right now as far as next up knits. I also wanted to mention I had made a sock knitting pattern called the Cozy Slouchy Socks. Here is the cuff. And I really would like to prioritize finishing this pair up because I am going to use it as my tutorial video, so that if you would like to make socks but you're not really a sock knitter, then you will have tutorials along each step of the way, like from the increases you need for the leg and the decreases I use to the heel, flap, and gusset, like each and every step so that your hand is held the whole way. That is on the list of like to-dos this year, and I'm really wanting to get that done. So that's all I have knitting wise. Again, a couple more. Right now is like the time of year where all of the knitting books and all of the magazines and everything is coming out, and so I'm sure you will see a little more frequent podcasts just because I want to make sure to cover those things. But another book that's coming out is the Doodle Knit Directory. This is a pattern by Jamie Lomax. She does all of the knitting deck cards. Again, I will mention if for some reason I am gifted or anything like that, but this is just not, I pre-ordered it. I'm excited for this because I really would love to use this doodle directory for gifts. I think it's super fun to have like something that kind of reminds you of the person, like in a little colorwork somewhere. And you don't have to make necessarily the whole doodle cows that she does, but you could add like a little stripe of something cute if you were making somebody a cowl or a hat, or just something that really would personalize it to your receiver of the gift. I can't think of the name. Giftee? What is that called? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So that's coming out October 8th. And that is a pre-order now. I think if you pre-order it through her, you can get like a signed copy, or you can also, I think, get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all those things. I learned this year, I think this year I remember hearing a podcast or something for just a regular like reading book. They said that pre-orders are really important to authors because that kind of sets the stage for like what they're making on. I feel like they make a certain amount on the pre-orders more than the regular purchase of the book. So if it was something you were going to get any of these books, pre-order them. At least that's my understanding, I guess. So anyway, I've really enjoyed our time together. I hope that you guys are knitting something really fun. Until 2 weeks from now, make some yarn magic.